So Ready Player One is just Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Okay, so let's just think about what happens when you go to sleep. So just picture going to sleep, right? You're laying in bed, you close your eyes. That's the first step. Close your eyes. What's that do? That gets rid of your sense of vision. Okay, so from there, we need to rely on some of our other senses, like our hearing and our smelling, whatever. That's why, like, when you're in a dark room, you kind of feel all over the place because you can't rely on your sense of vision, right? You have to rely on your sense of feel in that case. Let's keep going from there. So when you are going to sleep, you get rid of your sense of sight. So you're not fully closed off from reality, right? You can still smell things, you can still hear things. It's when you go to sleep that you are now fully immersed in something else. Because if you're trying to go to sleep and someone, I don't know, starts cooking bacon, I would probably sit up fully and start saying, oh, someone's cooking bacon, right? At that point, I would get up and go eat bacon. But the point being, you could still smell. You're still in this reality. Even though your eyes are closed, you're still in this reality. Okay, so you go to sleep. No longer are you in this reality. And from here is where I'll use the word, we escape reality. And again, this is maybe a trigger warning for people who have depression or anxiety, but think about somebody in an extremely depressive state. One of the symptoms is not being able to get out of bed. So you sleep a lot. And again, this is for someone who is in a deep depression, not just like you stepped in dog poop and now you have to like go to a job interview and now you smell like poop at the job interview and you're like, oh my gosh, I hope they don't think that I smell like poop, because it's not me, it's the dog poop I just stepped in. But you can't bring up dog poop because like poop isn't an appropriate thing to bring up at an interview. Like, oh, that, by the way, that smell is the dog poop I stepped in. They'd be like, oh, why are we talking about poop? Right. Anyway, so where was I with that? The going to sleep all the time is this way of escaping this reality, because it's such, for them, this person, and sorry, this is such it's maybe like a morbid analogy I'm making. It's such a depressing life or whatever the situation is, that sleep helps them escape from that. So now they're no longer in this reality, they're in their sleep reality. All right, let's bring up the energy a little bit. When we go to sleep, we dream. One thing that's really important to point out here is that dreams bring you into a fantasy realm. So not fantasy in the way that like Lord of the Rings is fantasy, or Game of Thrones, which of course that works too for the word fantasy. But I mean fantasy in its literal definition, meaning it's something that our mind creates that's unrestricted by reality. So things don't need to make sense in our dreams because it's not bounded by the things that make sense in reality. With that, have you ever had that dream where you're like, that didn't make sense, right? You wake up and you're like, what the heck did I just dream? Like, I was on a roller coaster, but then the roller coaster turned into like a pterodactyl that I was riding with a harness, and then it started breathing fire, but it wasn't a dragon. And for some reason, like, my boss was getting burnt by the fire. I've never had this dream. I just want to make that clear. But that's something that someone could have had dreamt. Okay. The thing is, it's a universal human experience. There's not a lot of things that we could say are universal experiences. And even then, saying dreaming is a universal experience isn't necessarily true, because I'm sure not every single person of the 8 billion people on Earth have the ability to dream. But it's implied, like being a human, it's implied that you know what dreaming is and you've experienced it. So if I say to you something to the effect of, oh, I had this crazy dream last night, or like, I had this really weird dream last night, I'm assuming, since you're also human and you have this shared human experience, that you get what I'm talking about. Just the fact that I'm saying that to you, it's implied I'm assuming you could relate to what I have to say. So art is a way that we express our humanity in a creative way. And I mean art, capital A art. That's like paintings, drawings, music, film, pictures, sculpting, fashion, whatever. The capital A arts is our humanity expressed through creative processes. Okay. So sleep is a human thing, which is established. It is something we experience as humans. So in artistic media, you will see sleep expressed as exactly what I said, this escape from our reality to a fantasy land. Again, not fantasy in the sense like there's elves and stuff, just fantasy meaning it's not this reality on planet Earth that we all live and experience. So let's just think of an example. This is probably one of the best pieces of film in cinema history. I think it's gotten 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Shark Boy and Lava Girl, which was that like was it Nickelodeon? Like, was it a TV film or was it its own thing? And it was just on Nickelodeon all the time. I don't know, because I've watched it 1,000 times. And you know what? Matter of fact, a couple years ago I rewatched it. Now I'm a little bit older. I highly recommend you go back and rewatch it. George Lopez, amazing. Taylor Lautner, right, too? All right, so with that, what's the movie about? This boy gets bullied, and I think something's up with his parents, right? The parents don't have a great relationship. I don't really remember the whole thing. But he sleeps to escape reality. And so as a human, you watch the movie and you go, oh, I relate to that because I'm human. I know what it feels like to dream and escape reality, right? And then it gets wacky, right? His dream world's this wacky place, but it's a movie, so there's conflict, and like the dreams start coming and interfering with his real life. So there's like this mesh of like dream world and reality, whatever. The point is that he dreams to escape reality. And there's actually this inception moment. Well, which came first? There's this moment, like inception moment, where Lava Girl has to escape the main kid's dream reality. She has to go to sleep to go to her own sleep realm to then dream up what was like a banana float, like a banana split boat that would then appear in the main kid's dream realm. Right, so it's like this weird inception moment, but something's going wrong in the kid's dream realm, so she has to escape that reality by going to sleep. Okay, we understand this. It's a lived experience for all humans. Okay, here's now where it starts getting crazy, because humans are very, very creative, and our brains are constantly categorizing. So we don't need to, in this media, in any art media, we don't need to explicitly write it out for the viewer, the listener, whatever. We don't have to make it, sleep is escaping reality. We could do this in other ways, right? So let's think about Ready Player One, virtual reality. So what happens when you don your Meta, whatever they're called, Oculus Rifts, but it's not called that anymore. What happens when you don that like armor, like a helm? You take away your vision. You no longer can see this reality. Now, of course, in the new, what are they called? Meta Quests. In the new Meta Quests and like the Apple Vision Pros and whatever other virtual reality glasses there are, or goggles, whatever they're called. In the new ones now, they have the cameras on the outside so you can see this reality. But my point being is when you actually start using it as like what it's supposed to be used for, you escape this reality by stripping yourself of your vision. Because your vision, yes, you're still able to see, but you don't see anything real. Just like when you go to sleep and you have a dream, you don't see anything real. You see fake things. Now they could be from the real world. Like, you could have a dream and like your crush is in your dream, and of course your crush exists, but like they're in your dream. Same thing in virtual reality. That picture that you have of, I don't know, your dog can appear in the virtual reality. So it's a real thing that you're seeing, but you're seeing it in this other realm. It's in a virtual reality. It's in the name of the actual device. So Ready Player One is just Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Because instead of going to sleep, closing his eyes, and having a dream to fix whatever the conflict of the movie is, this guy, the main character, and then of course all the other characters, put on their virtual reality headsets and they escape the real Earth reality and they go into the virtual reality or a dream state, right? And now you're getting it. So virtual reality, in terms of Ready Player One, which was a film, but it's also a book. I forgot to have literature be part of the capital A arts. Literature counts all the time too. So in this instance, whoever, I forget the author, but he's not writing it out for us. Like, this is sleep as escape of reality. He's not just putting it out there that this is the human experience that we all relate to and changing it up. No, it's not written out for us like that. But us as humans just know our brain is always categorizing. So it sees a movie or reads the book, like Ready Player One, and it goes, oh, that whole virtual reality thing, that's like when I close my eyes and go to sleep. It's that same concept, which is so effective in portraying a story. Again, think about the fact that humans are super creative and our brain doesn't need everything just written out for us plain as day. We are able to interpret artistic pieces, and we have our own agency as an interpreter. Let's go one step further. Chronicles of Narnia. When we go to sleep, we pass from this reality into the dream realm. What is the wardrobe other than that threshold represented as a physical thing? Right? Because when we go to sleep, we're not actually passing through a physical threshold, but we live life through metaphors. That's our metaphor. We pass through the threshold into dream reality. But humans are so creative that we think to ourselves, wait a minute. Let's take that metaphor and make it literal. So the main character literally passes through a threshold, escapes this reality, and comes out into a fantastical reality, a fantasy realm, or, in other words, a dream realm. So the Chronicles of Narnia, or The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, I don't know whichever one came first, so I don't know. Point is, that story is Shark Boy and Lava Girl. It's a dream sequence. You escape from this reality and you go into the dream reality, because things in a dream reality don't need to make sense. It is a fantasy realm. So anything can happen. The same thing with Where the Wild Things Are. Although that one kind of is more on the like childhood imagination experience, but it's still this like he's passing through a threshold to get to where the wild things are, right? So next time you see any kind of art media and it's reminiscent of this threshold that you pass through into another realm, think of why that works so well. It's because every single day, we as humans pass through a threshold into another realm. And we just call it dreams. And it's such an ordinary, common human experience, that dreaming isn't like, whoa, you dream? But like maybe to aliens that don't dream, we'd say, oh, yeah, at night when we close our eyes, we see these pictures and it's just like a movie, and none of it makes sense, but it's fun. They'd be like, what? Just lastly, let's just think about this in like music. When an artist makes a song, they, let's say it's about breakup. Breakup might not be a universal thing. Not everyone goes through breakups. But it's common enough that an artist would say, this happened to me. I'm sure this happened to a whole bunch of other people. I'm going to make this song. Someone who listens will be able to relate. That's the concept that we're holding on to when I say that this is a human lived experience that others can relate to. So the next time you see a piece of media and you see sleep as an escape from reality being evoked, again, it might not always be written out for you. Just know where that comes from. And now next time you see that, you're going to be like, oh, got it. That makes sense now.